Welcome back with Unreal Nation. So we are continuing with our third person shooter series in which we have left the last video in this stage. We have created a third person character from an empty project and made inputs from WAASD. Here you can see with the 4 keys our character should move forward, backward and left, right. But now we are going further in this series. Now what is the next step? We need to track our mouse tracker as well. We need, when we move our mouse, our camera should move along with our character. So now we need inputs for that. Now I am going to project settings, and under inputs we have defined our inputs over here. Now let me add another input and let me call that to look LR. Look LR means look left and right when we move our mouse. Now under our selection keys, let me click that and search for mouse, and we need mouse X to look left and right. And I'm going to define another one, and that is look up, down. And for that I am going to define mouse Y key. Now we have defined our mouse inputs in our project setting. Now we need to implement these axes in our event graph. So here is my character blueprint, and here you can see I have implemented this basic walk functionality for our character. Now here you can see in the project setting we have defined look left, right. Now I am going to define search for the same one, look left, right, and under the axis events let's select this one, and now look up and down. Now we need the movement of our camera when we move our mouse. For that there are 2 nodes that Unreal Engine provided us for that. For that let me search. There are 2 nodes. First is add controller pitch input and add controller yaw input. Okay, now for look up and down you need to execute this into a pitch input and give the value. And for the left and right we need to connect with our execution pin and our axis value. Let's compile and save it, and let's check it out. Here you can see our left and right functionality is working properly, but up and down is not working. For that we need some 3 additional settings that we should apply to move our mouse up and down as well. For that, first of all, you need to select our character movement, and on the details section move down to the movement component. Here character movement, and you need to check the orient rotation to movement checked. Compile and save. Then you need to select our spring arm. When you click on the spring arm and on the detail section you need to check use on controller rotation. Save, compile, and now you need to check the first my TPS self directory, and under that you need to uncheck the use controller rotation yaw. Uncheck it, compile and save it. Now let me play and check it out. Here you can see now here you can see now our mouse is up and down. Our camera is moving up and down with our mouse rotation. So now, so far, so good. Now, our character is moving backward, our character is forward, left and right. But this is not the exact that we get in our third person default. Now we need to add some animations to work properly. From up till now, we just implement the functionality of our character. But now we are adding the animations. For that, we need, first of all, we need a BlendSpace. What is the BlendSpace? BlendSpace is basically blend our animation into a graph. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Let me go to the content browser, and under the content browser I am going to create a BlendSpace. For that I am going to animation, and under the animation I am going to create a BlendSpace. And after click on that, it asks us to select your skeleton mesh. Right now we have only one, so I am selecting this one and give the name TPS underscore my BlendSpace. Double click and open up my BlendSpace. And now here you can see, right now this is the default interface when we open up our BlendSpace. Now I am going to asset details on the left hand side, and under the axis setting, let's open up the horizontal axis, and I am going to name it as speed, and minimum value should be 0, and I am going to change the maximum value to 300. When you have implement this, when you have defined the name speed and minimum value to 0 and maximum value to 300, what does it mean? We have defined two values. We have defined 0 and 300. 0 means our character is in the rest position. Our character is not walking, not running, not anything. But at the 300, our character should walk. Now, on our main viewport and below that, you have seen a graph. And check it out, the speed is from 0 to 300, the same one that we have created over here. Now, when the speed is 0, what we need is, when the speed is 0, our character should in idle position. So what we need, here you can see in the asset browser, we have got all the animations. Okay, now we need two animations. When our speed is 0, our character should be in the idle state. And let me search for idle over here. And here you can see we have a lot of idle animations. Okay, let me select this one and drag and drop at the 0. Have you noticed the change? When I have select and drop our animation to 0, our character is in the rest position, because right now our speed value is 0. Here you can see when we have on 0, our character should in the idle position. But when the speed is 300, our character should in the running form. So let me select jog and drag and drop the second one, jog forward rifle, to our graph. Now here you can see we have a little green pointer over here. When we move this pointer to 300, check out the change. We have exact on 300 and my character is in the running form. So here you can see we have set up the two animations, the idle one and the running one. When our speed is 0, our character is in the idle form, and here you can see when I have moved the pointer from 0 to 300, our character is in the running form. When I have moved it to 0, it will again to idle position, and when I have moved back over 300, it is in the walking state. So far, so good. Let me save it and close our BlendSpace. Now in the content browser, we have a 1 TPS MyCH, we have another our BlendSpace. Now what we need? Now we need our animation blueprints. We need another class in which we are going to add our animations for our this character. Now for that, let me go to animation and animation blueprint, the third option. Click that, and now here you can see what it is asking for. Here you can see it is asking that if you want something parent class over, you can also add, but under there you just select the mannequin, our mesh, skeleton mesh, and click OK. And now I'm going to name it as TPS underscore by my enemy. Double click and open up our animation. When you have opened up, you can see we have got this type of interface. Now this is the output box. Everything that you want the output in our viewport should be in this output box. Now under here we have to create a state machine over here. What the state machine is? State machine is basically the combination of all the states in which our character should. For example, idle state, for example, in running state, for example, in jump state. These are all the states that our character should follow according to our inputs. So now we need a state machine that defines that in which state is our character in the current scenario. Okay. Let me add state machine. Here you can see in the second option, the state machine, add a new state machine. And let me drag and to final output. Double click and open up the state machine. Here is an entry point. And let me drag an empty point and add a state. I am going to add a first state. What our first state is? For example, when we are playing the game, our first stage of character is idle state or running state. Our character should be in the idle state or running state. That is the first state. So let me name it idle/run and click enter. Now under that state, double click it, and here you can see output animation pose. Now we need output animation. What animation is in character? And you have remember we have created a BlendSpace. So there I have named my BlendSpace as TPS underscore by BlendSpace. Click it and drag to our output animation. Remember we have named this state idle run, and the same scenario we have covered on our BlendSpace. When the speed is 0, our character should in the rest state, means the idle state, and when the speed is 300, our character should be in the running form. Okay, now we have added a one state machine over here, and under the state our first state is idle run, and in idle run I am going to with the same BlendSpaces that I have created before. Now to execute this BlendSpace, what we need a variable that are the speed. Our speed is required. When the speed is 0, our character is in the idle state. When the speed is 300, our character should be in the running state. So how we can get this speed? Let me tell you. Here you can see we have this animation graph, but we have also an event graph of that, and under here we have a default two nodes that provided by the input, and that is the try get on, or that is the same character that showing up on that. And now we need to get the speed to default node by the input. Now this is the reference of that character that we are working on. Now we need to get the velocity from this on. Let me go to and check that is valid. Here I have checked that our character is valid or not. Now I need a speed velocity. We need a value that is the speed in which we are going to pass this in our animation state to get our animations. So now I need to get velocity. Now we have get the velocity. You have the idea that velocity is the combination of two things. The first one is the number, and the second thing is the vector length. Now what we need is we just get a vector length. We got the vector, and let me check it out. Okay, I think vector length. Here you can see vector length. Now this is our speed. This is the return as speed. Let me go and promote to a variable and set the name of this into speed. Click it, and now I am going to set this after is valid is select. Let me go, our speed is set it up. Let me compile and save, and you can see our character should in the idle position because now the speed is 0. The speed value should be changed when we click any key WAS because that is the input key that change our speed. Now I am coming to this one, and here you can see I am get the speed over here and execute this. Let me compile and save, and here you can see our animations are working, and here you can see in state machine the time is running out of there. So let me go and for that let me click and execute. Here you can see nothing is changed, no animation is working. What we need is we have complete with our animation work, but we need to add this class animation my anim to this character TPS my ch. And here you can see when we double click our blueprint class for our character, and then we select the mesh on the left hand side, and under here you can see in the detail section we have a section named animation, and anim class is selecting nothing. Now you need to select your animation class, that is TPS my anim in my case. Let me select this one, compile and save it, and let me execute. And yes, here we go. You can see our character is in idle form. Let me click some inputs and check our animation is working or not. Here you can see our character is moving. Our character is moving with WASD, and our every animation is working properly. Okay, so far so good. So that is pretty much for this video. So stay tuned and subscribe our channel, and make sure to support us on our Patreon. Thank you very much. See you in the next video.